Check, check, check. All right, for those of you listening in, look at the comment section of this. I'll put the timestamp of where we start because we do a lot of testing. Ready, and we're going to be quiet right now. On the line with anybody. Oh, my alarm was going. Gotta mute that phone. Chris. Part 12. Ready to rock and roll. Paul, what up? Good evening. How you doing? Here. Derek, ready? Derek says, yo. Ready? Derek's typing. Ready. No word from Chris. Oh, you know what? Chris has two. What's up, Shakita? How you doing? Oh, Chris is typing. Oh, I think Mr. Hammond, I think we're back in business.
Hello?
Hello. What's up, Derek?
What's up?
You ejected me from this conversation?
I ejected the other Chris, so you didn't get a phone call on whatever device that's connected to. We're live, by the way. Paul and Shakita are already in the chat field. Listening.
Whoa! What's up, Paul? What's up, Shakita?
Oh, no. What's up to Paul and Shakita from Derek?
Oh, sorry. What's up, guys?
Sorry, guys. He's never interacted with other humans.
They can hear everything, Derek. Always listening.
Ah.
All right, guys. Are we ready to rock and roll, as one would say?
Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm...
Yes? Yes?
I'm gonna be such a villain this entire podcast. I know I'm just gonna be such a... I don't want to play that role. I don't want to be the villain, guys. I don't want to be the villain.
Unnecessary.
I don't want to be the villain, but sometimes
You've lived long enough to become the villain.
No, but it's also going to be it from the beginning to the end, like the entire time. I'm just going to be the villain. It's like even in the top 5 list, I'm going to be I'm going to be a villain. Oh,
I mean, don't. Well,
Chris decided to leave the phone call because of that.
He doesn't like villains.
Oops.
I didn't mean to hang up. I swear.
Chiquita, I do not love to be that guy, to be honest. And it seems like I've never done a review with Derek where I liked the movie, I feel like. And Derek's done like 10 movie reviews with us.
I think we've done like one. We've done like one or two. It's rare.
But I liked it.
Yeah.
You should have been there for the Glass Castle.
I still haven't even seen that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. You're like the most of America. Or most movie-watching America. All right. Chris, you don't have to record on your end. I'm recording.
Sounds good.
Welcome to the Watch and Talk. I'm Dylan Shuck.
I'm Chris Hartwell from The Heartbeat.
I'm Derek Miranda.
In this podcast, we're reviewing Logan Lucky, as well as our top 5 Daniel Craig films, and you can hear all of our previous reviews at thewatchandtalk.com. Big shout out to our premium supporters. Ugh. Big shout out to our premium supporters, whatever that means. I already have to take a timestamp of a correction I have to make. This is how the sausage is made, ladies and gentlemen. I will only accept perfection from me and mediocrity from everybody else. All right.
To be expected.
Big shout out to our Patreon supporters. If you want to be a supporter of the show, you can go to patreon.com/thewatchandtalk. And huge shout out to our premium supporters, Chiquita, June, Endless Mike, and Kaka.
Yay!
Hey, Derek.
Yes.
How's your social media presences?
It's okay. It could be better, I guess.
Well, I have a solution for you to make it better. You can go to the WatchTalk.com/CoinCrack to boost your social media presence. And big shout out to Ninth Link. Ninth Link designers are ready to listen to your business needs and create websites, applications, and email campaigns. Check them out at thewatchandtalk.com/9thlink. Guys, we started live streaming our episodes live on YouTube. So anybody that wants to check that out, just search for thewatchandtalk.com and subscribe on YouTube. Usually on our Twitter, we'll give a heads up. Usually as big of a heads up as I can give on our Twitter at The Watch and Talk to see what time we're going to be recording at. Today we gave a 40-minute heads up, but sometimes I give an entire day heads up, so it just depends. So you can stream on. So if you ever hear us referring to something that somebody said in the chat, which, by the way, people in the chat, I can't stare at the entire time, otherwise I get distracted, but I check in on from time to time, especially when Chris is going on about something smart and intelligent, and I just go and start reading the chat. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing great. Besides, being just hated on by you right now. No, I'm doing quite well. I find myself actually much closer in the United States to DePaul than I did even 3 days ago. My wife and I have now successfully moved to Houston, Texas.
It seems like you almost moved deep in the heart of Texas.
Deep in the heart of Texas.
So how is it?
Houston is not really deep in the heart of Texas. It's kind of on the edge there, but it's fine. We can sing the song anyways.
I just had to try to slip that in there. But you're comfy now. You're living in. It sounds like your room is less that you're recording in is less echoey now.
Yeah, no, I am in my office at my university. This is my first legitimate office I've ever had. The hilarious thing is, I feel like I've gone from 0 to 100 in a matter of minutes. As far as just the disposition and things like having
an adult.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. And as I'm sure many people know, babies due in December, so the adult things just continue to happen.
I feel like I'm 32 and I still feel like I haven't switched to being an adult. I know that sounds weird to a lot of people, but I just do in a lot of ways.
I think that probably sounds a lot less weird than you might think to a lot of people.
Yeah, but I think when that switches is when you have a kid.
Sure.
I think that's when you finally feel like, I think that's when that switch happens, because I know that, I don't know. I know when you talk to a lot of parents, they don't really still have that. They're like, I feel like a kid. Maybe there's some parents out there that still feel like kids. I don't know. I'm sure for the first 2 years of having a kid, it's like, you're like, man, I wish this thing came with an instruction manual. But then I think it just kind of becomes natural after all. But anyway, congrats again.
Thanks,
I know I
man.
said congrats on that, but yeah, maybe we'll have the baby on the podcast and see what their thoughts are on
definitely
on colors and shapes.
Extremely articulate
and sounds.
A lot.
All right, so let's get into what we've watched recently. I I don't really have much to report this week. I am knee deep in a Curb Your Enthusiasm binge, so unfortunately I don't have a ton to report back on what I've been watching. I've been watching Curb Your Enthusiasm a lot. I rewatched Popstar Never Stop Never Stopping. So other than that, I don't have much to report on how many. But you guys want to hear my thoughts on that? You can scroll way back to episode 5 on the Watch and Talk when we reviewed that. But anyway, I'm boring this week with what I've watched recently. What about you, Chris? What have you watched recently?
I am just as boring as you, my good friend. I've only been watching more Breaking Bad, which is in no way, shape, or form boring. It's amazing. But yeah, I'll just say for 2 seconds that rewatching that show is brilliant. It's funny. My opinion of Walt is completely different now this time around than it was watching it the first time. And it's a much more depressing show in a lot of ways. Than it was the first time, and I won't spoil why if you haven't seen the show. But yeah, it's still outstanding. It's phenomenally well written and so well directed and acted, and just so great. It's really fun too, sitting next to someone who's never seen it, and getting her kind of candid reactions, and then like, oh, interesting. So you think that's gonna happen? Okay, well, we'll see. So yeah. Besides that, I haven't been watching anything. A little bit busy.
Anybody out there that hasn't watched Breaking Bad, I think it's something you should priority in your life. I know everybody says about a lot of things, but I think that's extremely important. I think it's one of the most important TV shows you could ever watch.
I could back it up.
Derek, anything interesting in the house? Please be more interesting than us.
Actually, yeah. I mean, I've been watching a lot lately, so I'll make up for you too. First of all, it's funny. I literally just watched an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm right before we started this podcast, so that's kind of funny. I'm only on season 2. Like, I'm late to the game. For years, people have been giving me a lot of flack for having never watched Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I just binged Rick and Morty last couple weeks because I never got into Rick and Morty either. And after Comic-Con, where I just saw Rick and Morty everywhere, I'm like, all right, I'll give this a chance finally. So I finished Rick and Morty, and now that I've caught up to Rick and Morty, I'm like going through and slowly just squeezing in episodes here and there of Curb Your Enthusiasm. So I'm only on season 2. I have 1 episode of season 2 left. What else? Let's see. I binged all of the Defenders yesterday in one sitting. I literally came home from work yesterday,
Derek,
and started Defenders.
That could not look less appealing to me.
Sorry, what was that?
I have to say that could not look less appealing to me. The Defenders.
Hello? No.
Am I Chris? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you just fine.
That's what's wrong with Derek.
Come on.
If we could hear Derek just crying and
what happened?
We could just hear you pleading with the sound to work.
You could hear me.
Yeah, you're just like, no, please.
Well, it says like reconnecting, like connection's poor. And I'm like, God, my internet sucks.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, what were you gonna say about my Defenders binging?
I just said that maybe I'm wrong, but that could not look less appealing to me.
But you also just hate Marvel in general. You have a lot of hate in your heart. So
I think that a lot of people out there would agree that I've come a long way with Marvel, a long way with Marvel.
Yeah, that's true.
But in fairness,
still, you are a hater. That's not.
I wouldn't call myself a Marvel hater, but I just have to say that doesn't look appealing to me. I'm not sitting here saying it sucks because I haven't seen it.
You're just not into it.
I've heard from people that I really respect their opinion that Daredevil was really good. And I love John Bernthal. So, and I think the tone of Daredevil looks pretty cool. I saw a big fight scene of, when my roommate was watching it, I saw a big fight scene in the prison with John Bernthal in Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That was extremely bloody and violent and really awesome. Which makes me sound like a teenager even say that like that. But it looked cool, and I was like, maybe, I could see Daredevil being good. But I'd say the Luke Cage and the Iron Fist and Jessica Jones do not look. Jessica Jones I could see be interesting because I really like Kristen Ritter. But anyway,
Daredevil's the best, hands down. And then I would put Luke Cage second. Luke Cage is really good.
Well, what about the Defenders, man? Give me your quick review on it. I'm really curious.
It was good, but it wasn't great.
That's your answer.
Like, I wasn't like, oh, it sucked, but it wasn't like, oh my God, that was amazing. They built up all these characters, and now they all came together, and it was everything I hoped for. I mean, there were definitely some enjoyable moments.
Sure.
I liked the series, but it wasn't like this grand, great thing that was just blew me away.
Sure.
Like if I have to rank all of the shows, I'd go like Daredevil 1, Luke Cage 2, Defenders 3, then Jessica Jones, and then Iron Fist last. Sure. Would be my like ranking of all of them.
From what I hear, Iron Fist was really bad.
It wasn't great, but it wasn't as terrible as people said at the same time. I don't know, it's complicated. But overall, yeah, I enjoyed the Defenders, but it was nothing to write home about, I guess I would say. Aside from that, what else? I saw Brigsy Bear last weekend.
Fun. How was that?
Which was it was really fun. It was great.
I don't even know what that's about. I just saw the poster for it, and I was like, this looks like Shining Time Station or something like that. Looked really weird. The marketing for it. I don't know anything about that movie. It's
really cool. It's definitely weird, but that's like the point. You got to give it a chance.
No, tell me.
I highly recommend.
Tell me what it's about. I'm curious what it's about.
Oh, really? Okay, so I'm trying not to give too much away, but it's basically about like this guy growing up, like obsessing over this like 80s 90s TV show called Brigsby Bear, and basically, his world is kind of. I'm trying not to like give much away. His world is kind of opened up before his eyes. Things aren't the way he thinks they are.
And is it it's a comedy?
Yeah, it's kind of a comedy / drama. I guess more comedy, but it's very touching, very heartwarming, very kind of innocent. This guy has this innocent look at life, and it's a lot of fun.
So it's in theaters right now?
Yes, it is. I went and saw it if you live in San Diego, I went and saw it at the Hillcrest Theater last weekend. And it was also cool. They came out and they all gave us T-shirts that the main character, that Kyle Mooney's character wears in the movie. So I got a free T-shirt from the movie, which was awesome.
I'll look into that.
Yeah, definitely look it up.
Report back on?
I mean, I've also just been. They just had that huge Criterion sale last month at Barnes & Noble, so I bought a ton of Criterions that I.
Oh my gosh, Barnes & Noble is the bane of my existence. They do that.
I spent.
Do you get the Before trilogy?
I did. I got the Before trilogy, and I did it all in one sitting. Because before I watched them, I never watched them all together. It's like I watched, Before Sunrise, and then I watched Before, later on, months later. Okay. Oh, I've seen them all before, but just never in one sitting, back to back to back, and it's really cool to do.
I have to say, Before Sunset is in my top 5 movies of all time.
It's really good. They're all great. It's just a great trilogy that I think a lot of people still haven't seen and need to check out. It's one of my favorite trilogies.
I think I'll like Before Midnight a lot better after the fourth one.
Before Midnight I loved.
When the fourth one comes out, I think I'll like Before Midnight also, but it didn't leave me where I wanted to be after I was left exactly where I wanted to be in Before Sunset. So I'm excited for the fourth one. In what now it's going to be in 5 more years? Every 9 years.
They haven't officially said yet if they're going to do it, but
I've heard that Richard Linklater does plan on it, but it's not official, obviously. But hey, it's like I don't think he's going to break this cycle. I think that he wants to keep studying this, especially after seeing something like Boyhood. How he loves to write a story where he's checking in on people. He's doing that with his movies. I think it's really smart, and I do feel like again that I think if just to satisfy Chris, if they make a fourth one, I think I'll like Before Midnight a lot better. And not to say I don't like Before Midnight. The first time I watched it, I was like, I hated that. Second time I watched it,
really,
I just again I didn't hate it as the movie was put together, but it didn't leave me where I wanted to leave the characters the way that Before Sunset left me exactly. You're going to miss your flight, I know, which is my favorite closing line of any movie.
That is pretty good. That is
absolutely
the best closing lines ever.
Before Midnight is the beautiful answer to that ending in the sense that...
I didn't want that answer.
But no, it's the exact answer. And to each his own, but for me, it was the exact answer that I wanted in the sense that these two people in Before Sunset are in relationships. They're married. And they chose to be unfaithful to their spouses and be together because they were in love with one another. And I think it would be foolish to then walk away from that 9 years later and be like, there are no consequences and there's nothing difficult about the life that they've chosen to live and the fact that they've chosen to break their vows to their previous spouses. I mean, I thought it was fantastically well-rounded. And I love, too, that they were in that third film exploring ideas and concepts that they were only kind of like hinting at and discussing and talking about in Before Sunrise. So anyways, I was all about it.
And again, I get all that. I'm just explaining why my first viewing of the film was like, damn it, this is not what I wanted to be happening with them. So it wasn't even on a storytelling perspective. It was more of what happened with the characters, which is why I say I know after the fourth one comes out, I'm not going to feel as like, dang, this is where it ended, because it's not where it ended, because there's another story to
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you that.
Maybe the fifth one will be them, in a old folks home together, and it'll be the most beautiful Up-like ending.
Maybe
it will roll into the movie Up, and we'll find out the whole thing was a big prequel.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
There we go.
Also, I got Boyhood as well, and watching that the other day for the first time since the theater. I still love that movie. Boyhood is just such a great film. I think I even liked it more this time around than when I saw it in the theater.
I'll never be able to look at that kid again the same after The Circle.
Oh, so actually, I'm getting The Circle in the mail today from Netflix, so I'll finally be able to see how terrible it is. So I'm gonna watch The Circle today. And today or tomorrow, and I'll let you know. I'll give you. Man,
I wish we watched it together. I'm busy today tomorrow, but man, I really want to rewatch it too. It's so bad, it's worth watching several times.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how bad this is.
Like Chris, I want you to watch it too, whenever you can.
It's really funny because my in-laws and brother-in-law watched The Circle, and none of them are like film reviewers in any way, shape, or form. Like, they're just your normal Joe Schmoes, and they're not very negative on film generally. They kind of either like, yeah, it was fun, or like, oh, it was whatever. And it was so funny because I haven't seen the film yet, but it was so funny hearing them talk about the film itself, because they're like, yeah, I like Tom Hanks and the film's going along and it's doing its thing, and I was starting to kind of get it, and then suddenly it just ended, and I was like, what happened? It was going this one way, and then it just ended. Like,
interesting.
Articulating that they're just really confused, which is probably the most negative I've ever heard them speak on a film. So I am because of your review and theirs tempted
luckily
to.
Luckily it ended. Luckily it's still not going on. But I have to say they cover the dangers of technology in these ways, but they briefly the surface level idea of it. And then they show they don't explore it really in a deep way at all on any of them, and they give this caricature evil way of the way it could go, and watch everybody cheering while pure evilness is being shown to them. And you're like, what? Nobody would be cheering for this. Nobody would be going for this. So you'll see what I'm talking about, Derek. I literally want you to call me as soon as you
all right.
finish watching.
I'm probably gonna watch it this afternoon, and I'll let you know. All right. I got a bunch of other Criterions also. Pan's Labyrinth, where I just watched my Criterion Pan's Labyrinth last night after The Defenders. The Lodger, one of Alfred Hitchcock's earliest movies from the 20s, silent film, amazing. July was a very expensive month for me.
You're much better at classic cinema than I am, Derek.
I love classic cinema. I love
good man, Derek.
my old
good man.
French movies and my silent. Yeah, so July, between Criterion sales and Comic-Con and just all these cool Mondo releases, I spent a lot of money. I spent too much money last month. The one other thing I watched a lot, but the one other thing I got to say, a couple weeks ago, they did the midnight showing of Back to the Future at one of the little independent theaters here in San Diego, and I went and saw that with some friends, and that was just, let me say, amazing. I mean, Back to the Future is one of those movies, obviously, I grew up on and I love, and that's also one of my favorite trilogies of all time. But seeing Back to the Future on the big screen, I will defend it. Back to the Future 3, rewatch it. It's a solid third film. It's a solid third film. It's entertaining. It's a fun movie.
Yeah, but neither of those, neither 2 or 3 are even close to the first one.
2, okay, 2's great. But anyways, 1, I gotta say, it's funny. Like I said, when because it's they're movies that you put on and kind of as a background, maybe you're on your computer or just doing whatever, you're cleaning your room or whatever. But to watch it where it's got your full attention, you really appreciate how cleverly well written this script is. Just the way everything you see early on comes back around, and the idea of how time travel, they do these things in the 50s that affect what's goes back and changes things that took place in the 80s, and it's just, everybody loves it, but I don't think people appreciate like how great of a film it actually is. It's not just nostalgia or it was just a fun movie with Michael J. Fox. Like, it's actually a great film that people, I think, don't fully give it the credit it deserves. So
Back to the Future is brilliant.
Yeah, just like seeing brilliant. It. I know. I feel like a lot of people are just like, oh, it's fun 80s I grew up on, but it was really also just see it in the theater full of people who also just have the same love for it. It's just the excitement and energy in that auditorium was just so much fun to experience. So
you know what I have to say something about that movie is, remember that part where he's like, okay, all right, future man, then who's president of the United States in 1985? And he's like, Ronald Reagan. He's like, Ronald Reagan, the actor? I suppose Jane Wyman's Secretary of State and all that. And he goes on about that. Imagine that movie coming out now.
Yeah, Donald Trump.
Who's president of the United States in 2017? Donald Trump is. Donald Trump, billionaire playboy from The Little Rascals and Home Alone 2? Yeah, right, dude. Like, at least in 1955, Ronald Reagan was already very politically active, so it really wouldn't have been that big of a surprise. I think he might have already ran for president at that point. But unsuccessfully, obviously. But he'd already been supporting Barry Goldwater. Like, he was already really entrenched in politics. But it would have been shocking for 30 years ago to hear.
Oh, yeah. Like, if you went back to, like, the 80s and told people, oh, yeah, guess what? Like, Donald Trump's the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Like, people would not believe you. People would not believe you.
Yeah. Or if you went back to 2016.
Seriously.
All right. That's the political minute. All right. Let's get into our top 5 of the week. This top 5 of the week is Daniel Craig films. Surprisingly difficult top 5 list for me.
All right. Have you just not seen that many Daniel Craig films? Do you hate all Daniel Craig films? What's your call?
No, but there's like 2 that I really like, and then 3 actually that I really like, and then there's other movies that.
Am I correct in assuming you have 0 honorable mentions for this?
I do have 1 honorable mention.
Okay. I'm proud of myself. I only have 2 honorable mentions.
I'm proud of you,
which
too.
is a step up from my spy film list where I had like 20 honorable mentions.
Where I had to be like, cut his mic. I'll give my honorable mention off the bat. I wanted to be a smartass and put this on. This was originally on my list, and I took it off because I know it's unacceptable. Because he had such a small role in this film. You guys know what movie I'm referencing?
I don't know. I feel like it's
Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
It's The Force Awakens.
The Force Awakens. I originally had this as number 2 on my list, but then I was like, you know what? I found a 5th movie I can put on here. So.
You dumb.
All right, now I feel better about my list because some of my films, like, he's just a supporting character, and I was like, oh, I don't know, Dylan might get mad at me, but now I feel I'm firmly confident in my list now. So thank you for that, Dylan.
I'm just here to give you confidence. Go ahead. Anybody else want to give honorable mentions?
I have 1 honorable mention. I put Skyfall on there. The film for me, I think some people like swear by it. It's like, for some people, it's like their favorite Bond film of all time. I've never quite seen that personally. I think the thing is a little meandering, a little bit lazy. However, Daniel Craig is cool in it, and I like the fact that they were able to bring some of the energy and vigor from Casino Royale, as well as bringing some of the older characters such as Moneypenny and Q and kind of do them differently. And it's certainly a million times better than Spectre. So, I put Skyfall on my honorable mention.
Okay. I have 2 honorable mentions. The first one we'll say is Logan Lucky. So we'll get into that. And my second honorable mention is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which is, I'm a huge Fincher fanatic, and I really enjoyed the Dragon Tattoo. I love Fincher's version. I love the original trilogy, the Swedish films, but it's a great remake as far as like U.S. remakes of foreign films go. This is one of the best ones I've seen. Really, and Daniel Craig's great in it. Daniel Craig's great in it. It's Rooney Mara's great in it. It's just it would have been high on my list, but I love all these other films on the list more than that. But it's a great film.
All right, let's start off with our number 5. My number 5 is The Invasion with Nicole Kidman, about them unearthing an alien epidemic that's happening. That they find out that in a very invasion of the body snatchers type of way that they find out that a lot of people are replaced by aliens. And I think it was when Nicole Kidman discovered her son. Her son can either communicate with them or figure it out. I don't remember exactly how it went, but I remember being an enjoyable-ish little movie. I haven't seen it since it first came out in 2007, but this was my replacement of The Force Awakens, so be happy with it.
Interesting choice.
I've never seen that film. I only remember hearing that the Wachowskis had to come on at the last second and kind of like bail them out and make a better film.
You want me to get my top 5? My number 5?
Chris,
I'm sorry.
Or Chris, yeah. I was like,
by the way, this movie's just 19% Rotten Tomatoes, so it probably is not as good as I remember it.
Yeah, I'll say right now, I saw it once and I didn't enjoy it, but that's just me.
For my number 5, I put Sam Mendes's Road to Perdition on there. I don't particularly remember much of Daniel Craig's performance, to be honest, in this film, and I'm actually not that huge of a fan of the film in general. However, I'm making a top 5 list. But at the same time, I think Conrad Hall, who did the cinematography on the film, I think this might have been his last film ever before he passed away, is just outstanding. I mean, it's gorgeous. There's so many frames in it you could easily frame and put on your wall. And actually, one of them is, I believe, of Daniel Craig. Maybe it was Jude Law. But there's one shot of a guy reclining back on a couch and smoking a cigarette, and just the way that the light catches the smoke and catches part of his face, and it's again, it's picture frame worthy. It's pretty outstanding, and so number 5 is Road to Perdition.
Go for it.
Very
Derek.
nice. My number 5 is Casino Royale. It's Daniel Craig's first film as James Bond, and what a great debut. Just the way he changed that character from the Pierce Brosnan Bonds before him that got just really campy and cheesy and over the top, and he was gritty and grounded, and just the anger in him.
No gadgets, no gizmos, all Bond.
Yeah, I love that. And then even just like the little lines, he's like, he orders the vodka martini, he's like shaking her stern, he's like, do I look like I give a damn? Just like, this was a different Bond, and it was like, oh my God, like after coming off of Die Another Day to get Casino Royale, I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. This was amazing.
What, the windsurfing scene didn't do it for you?
It did not do it for me. As much as I still will enjoy some of the later Brosnan films. I'll still pop them in every now and then, but they're definitely a step down from Golden.
Earlier. Oh, later. Okay.
Yeah, I just compared to like GoldenEye,
I loved at the time World Is Not Enough. I was the most excited I've ever been for a Bond movie. I know that apparently it doesn't hold up, maybe, but I thought it was great at the time, at least when it came out.
I enjoyed it. I would probably rank The World's Not Enough above Die Another Day, but for me, like Daniel Craig, for me, like Pierce Brosnan, like started at his best, and he got like a little bit worse with every movie. So that's kind of my general ranking.
It's like the Batman and Robin of James Bond movies.
Exactly, it's pretty bad. Top 5 worst Bond films. Anyways, Casino Royale, yeah, it's just his first turn as 007, and what a great debut film in that character. I absolutely love it. It's one of my probably top 5, top 10 Bond films of all time. Yeah, great.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Derek.
Thank you.
My number 4 is Layer Cake, which I had thought, I remember this, I can't find the Guy Ritchie was a part of this, but I remember thinking maybe he's a producer or something like that. But
the guy who produced a number of Guy Ritchie's films, this was his directorial debut.
Got it. And I guess I probably got it confused with Rock and Rolla. But this was a very Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch-esque movie with kind of the same idea of it. And I remember really liking it. This is Daniel Craig this is like one of his first leading roles also.
And this was the role that really got him James Bond. It was because of this film, really, more than anything.
Yeah, got it. Makes sense. So anyway, that's Layer Cake. That's my number 4.
My number 4 is also Layer Cake. I've only seen this film once, but I really do remember enjoying it for this, just like you, Dylan, for the exact same reasons that I enjoyed films like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch. I also enjoyed just seeing Craig play a character who, like, for instance, his character like hated guns in the film, that always stood out to me, especially when he ultimately got around to playing Bond himself, and just kind of like the different shades of coolness that he played, where I feel like from Bond onwards, he's kind of been typecast as the really suave cool guy, which makes sense because he can play that like nobody's business. But it was nice to see him actually do something just slightly different, slightly more vulnerable. So for that reason, I have Layer Cake as number 4.
Number 4, Derek Miranda.
My number 4 is Road to Perdition. I loved this movie in high school. I mean, I still love this movie, but I remember when it came out in the theater, I went and saw it, and I was blown away. Just this cool, 30s gangster movie with, Tom Hanks and Daniel Craig and Jude Law. Once, like you said, Chris, like just gorgeous cinematography. It was such a beautiful movie to watch. I couldn't get enough of it. I watched this frequently. I got like the poster from the theater because I grew up in a small town with a local theater, and like I would always just was able to get movie posters from the owner. And that was before I actually ended up working at that theater, and then I just got posters on my own, whatever I wanted. But yeah, Road to Perdition. Daniel Craig didn't have the biggest role in this film, but it was just a beautiful film. Role. And
he was
exactly.
He was the Alfie Allen of John Wick.
Exactly. He
was the stupid idiot that pissed off somebody who's really capable and making them want to seek revenge, and he had no idea, thinking he was just full of himself, and he thought he was on top of stuff, and hey, he was no competition.
God, that comparison between John Wick is actually perfect. I never realized that until you said that right now. That's perfect.
Also, Paul Newman is one of his last roles. Also, he's so good.
Exactly.
And the line "I always wanted it to be you" is his final line of the movie. If anybody slept on this movie somehow, you need to rethink your life.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those films that people kind of maybe have forgotten about, and I definitely recommend going back. And it's one of my favorite Sam Mendes films. I've watched it repeatedly. God, now I kind of want to rewatch it. It's been a little while. I own it, and I don't watch it enough now. But great film. I really love it.
So my number 3 is Defiance. This took place in Nazi-occupied Eastern Europe, and it was about a couple Jewish brothers that escaped. I think they were on their way to the camps, and they escaped, and they joined resistance fighters. Russian fighters, and joined them, and protected thousands of Jewish civilians from Nazis. So I remember this being a really powerful movie. I haven't seen it in a long time. It's old now. I think it's almost 10 years old now, but it was one I definitely enjoyed at the time. That's directed by Edward Zwick.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I love Edward Zwick. Last Samurai is great, Glory is great, and I actually have not seen Defiance, so it's good to get that recommendation.
But I do have to say that in back-to-back years, Edward Zwick made my worst movie of the year.
He did make the Jack Reacher film. I forgot about that. What else did he make?
Jack Reacher, Never Go Back, and the year before it was Pawn Sacrifice.
Oh, yeah.
And those were
he did do Pawn Sacrifice.
Those are my back-to-back most excruciating movies. Although I do have to say that Jack Reacher, Never Go Back shared that title with The Secret Life of Pets, which was The Secret Life of Dog Shit.
You love that.
I enjoyed The Secret Life of Pets. I would never watch it again. I'm never gonna watch it again. But it was an entertaining hour and a half. Like, I don't know.
Here's great movies Edward Zwick did that I really liked. Love and Other Drugs is a really fantastic movie. He did Blood Diamond, which is really good. Defiance, The Last Samurai is really good. The Siege is really good. I didn't know he did Legends of the Fall. Wow.
You did?
Anyway. I didn't realize he did Love and Other Drugs. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And I love Love and Other Drugs. But Pawn Sacrifice and Jack Reacher, Never Go Back. I know that I'm sure a lot of people like Pawn Sacrifice. That movie was nails on a chalkboard to me.
It was whatever. I remember I went to an advanced screening of that with my friend, and I'm like, it was a little slow. It was on the slow side.
It was slow. Every time that we had to interact with Bobby Fischer, who was played by Tobey Maguire, it was like I can't even listen to him. It's just, it was showing him going crazy, And every single second of it was just like I had to kind of cover my ears and close my eyes because he was just so irritating.
Because you were going crazy.
I'll give you that. He was annoying in that film.
So they were going for him being annoying, but the effect worked too well for me. So I just needed to leave. I wanted to leave the theater. Like I just could not stand his role at all. Anyway, and that's on our top 5 Tobey Maguire movies next week. What's your number 3, Chris?
My number 3 is Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I have not still seen the Swedish original, and I really do want to do that. And I will get around to it. But I really enjoyed this film. This is my introduction to this world and to this property. And again, similar to what I talked about with Layer Cake, I enjoyed what Craig did with the character, especially given his body of work. And he didn't put on an exorbitant amount of weight, but even hearing that he tried to kind of fatten up a little bit and look a little less, sexy and such like that. And yeah, just his relational dynamic with the Rooney Mara character, I just didn't expect. I didn't expect it to play out the way that it did. And the movie is, Fincher twisted and then some. And it's not one film that I will run back to often because it's just so dark. But like all of his films, it's meticulously put together. And the performances in a subtle, kind of quiet way really do work quite well. And Daniel Craig's is certainly amongst those.
Alrighty, what's your number 3?
3. My number 3 is Layer Cake. Yeah, going off what Chris said, I've actually seen this multiple times. I remember when this came out in college, I saw the trailer and I dragged my friend to it, and I've been obsessed with this movie ever since. I watched it frequently. Like you said, Dylan, it was definitely like, having, watched Snatch and Lock, Stock all the time. So get like another cool British gangster movie like this, which I think trumps all of those, personally for me, was incredible. This is the film that I remember when they announced Daniel Craig as James Bond and everybody like freaked out, like, he's going to be terrible. He's blonde. He can't play James Bond. And then I saw Layer Cake and I'm like, seeing Layer Cake, I'm like, no, he'll be great. He's perfect for Bond. That's like kind of what we're sold me on him as 007. But Layer Cake is just a cool gangster movie. Just the soundtrack and the way it's shot and his character and all the other actors that they pop up in other little cool gangster movies and wherever. It's an awesome movie. I watched it frequently. It's I remember for years they rumored it a sequel and I was like waiting and it never happened, and I'm like, it's probably better they didn't make a sequel, but I would have been okay with it. This is probably also still my favorite Matthew Vaughn film. I love Kick-Ass, I love Kingsman, but I really love Layer Cake.
All right, my number 2 is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I thought it was a great adaptation. I'm really bummed that it didn't get its trilogy, like I think it should have. It didn't flop that hard, but I guess it wasn't as big of a hit as they wanted. I have seen the original trilogy, and it would have been perfect for them to continue. Apparently, they are working on the 4th one, which is an adaptation of the 4th book. And Rooney Mara is cast on it, but Daniel Craig and David Fincher are both out, so it's unfortunate. It's going to be kind of a soft reboot, which I don't know how you could do with one of the same actresses, but either way, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Interested to see how the story goes because of the what's it called? The first 3 were so good, but the author that wrote the first 3 did not write the 4th one because it died, I think, if I remember correctly before. So it's not even the original author, so it's interesting to see like how, I don't know, I guess whoever owns the estate had somebody that had worked with him, I guess, really well penned it, and I think that he had maybe started the ideas of it. So
I think I read that he had like a manuscript or like something, like he had something started for a 4th one, and then before he passed away.
So yeah, Girl Dragon Tattoo is my number 2.
My number 2 is actually Steven Spielberg's Munich. Again, Daniel Craig doesn't have a huge part in this, but nonetheless, it's a fantastic ensemble, and each of the characters really do elevate the piece to what it is. And yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's one of the kind of forgotten gems that Spielberg's done in recent time. I feel like it really is a powerful film, and obviously is dealing with a subject matter that is incredibly relevant and I think important to hear and to see. So yeah, and I think Craig as well as the rest of the cast do a fantastic job in it.
I wanted to put that on, but I just don't remember him in it at all. I don't remember his role in it at all. So
you need to rewatch Munich.
Okay.
It's fantastic.
I don't think I've seen it since the theater, to be honest.
Jesus.
No, the theater, not since.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Thank you. I misunderstood you there.
Eric, you don't have to be called on when they.
Sorry, I don't know. You usually call on people. I'm waiting to be called on.
It's true, you do.
I'm in my room raising my hand, and I'm like, dude, what the hell? It's taking so long. My number 2 is also Munich.
Nice.
Yeah, just like Chris said, totally kind of one of his forgotten gems. I remember it was a big deal in 2005 when it came out, and I feel like kind of everybody's forgotten about it. That was the one that I wanted to win Best Picture in 2005 when everybody's going on about Crash or Brokeback Mountain. I'm like, dude, what about Munich? I think Munich is a perfectly acceptable Best Picture contender here, but it did not get the love that unfortunately it deserved. Yeah, Munich's a fantastic film. It's dark, it's gritty, it's beautifully shot, beautifully acted. It does not get enough love.
I need to revisit.
You definitely do. It didn't even get a Blu-ray release till like a couple years, like very recently. The Blu-ray didn't come out till like 2 or 3 years ago, and I've been like waiting. It was one of those I was waiting years for, and finally it came out. And I was like, yes. And
Derek, we should be better friends because your life in relationship to Blu-rays sounds exactly the same as me. Like going to Barnes & Noble, getting Criterions, waiting for years for a Blu-ray like Munich. I'm still, maybe you don't like this film, but the one that I'm waiting for right now is M. Night Shyamalan's The Village. Like, that film is gorgeous.
I love that movie.
You know what? Yeah, like, I think The Village is one of his most underrated films. Like, I remember people hated on it, and I enjoyed it. Actually, you know what's funny, though? That movie got spoiled for me because I worked at the theater. So I worked at this one-screen theater, and usually if we get a movie a day early, we would, we'd put it together, and we would do, like, our own little screening, just, like, the crew of us, and we'd invite, like, maybe family, friends, girlfriends, whatever, and we'd watch it, like, the night before. Like, we did this with a lot of movies. But The Village, we didn't get to do it with, and I remember, like, I didn't get a chance, and I'm working the theater, and, like, I'm, like, in the right outside the theater, and I hear, like, the police siren at the end, and I was like, no, like, that's the twist. So that was a bummer for me, but still an enjoyable film. I really like The Village, so yeah, I would be down with the Blu-ray release of that. I'm with you on that one.
Right.
Derek's good for me because I get his digital downloads when he buys a new.
Yes, I share my digital downloads.
You're obsessed,
Dylan. Yeah, Dylan, you never gave me an answer, by the way. If you want, I picked up Alien Covenant.
I said yes. I said yes.
Oh, well, you kind of danced around it. You made it seem like you were just going to buy your own copy, so I wasn't sure.
No, I'll take. I definitely would like it. Thank you.
Okay, when we're done with this,
great
I'll
content.
take a picture.
This is great content for the podcast. All right, let's get into our number 1. The undisputed best Daniel Craig film is my number 1. It's not your guys' number 1 though. But that's Road to Perdition. I already kind of chimed in where I could about it, but it is one of the best revenge flicks that you could see in the modern era. Tom Hanks is so good as a capable hitman for the 1920s mob, who had kind of retired to raise a son and be with his wife, and then Daniel Craig came and muddled it all around. It's just like I said, it's like the 1920s version of John Wick without all the fight choreography, but instead more dramatic as far as that goes. It replaces the action with drama, and Jude Law is so good in that movie. Also, he is so good, and
he's a great villain.
Is a great little assassin for the mob. So that's that is so. It's interesting to see that he's like Jude Law is more of a tactician assassin as opposed to Tom Hanks' character, who is not only physically but just more a mental, powerfully hitman for them at that point. But it was so interesting to see this different type of hitman with Jude Law in that. But it was really good, especially because Jude Law's role is kind of small but very important for the movie. Anyway, that is that is Road to Perdition. Everybody,
you're definitely making me want to watch it again. I like this review. This is good.
It's so good.
My number one is Casino Royale. I think for me, it's just a perfect combination of I love Craig's performance in it, and I just love the film itself. In rewatching over the years, I do think it is about 15 minutes too long. But you know what? Every single James Bond film is too long. Even Quantum of Solace, that just film should be.
GoldenEye isn't.
That's true. I think GoldenEye is kind of the perfect sweet spot. But nonetheless, all this to say, I think Martin Campbell, who also directed GoldenEye, and Daniel Craig.
Invincible.
Good old Alan Cummings. But I really felt like the both of them, even as Martin Campbell had directed an outstanding Bond film before, I just felt both of their hunger and desire to prove themselves with this new film, and kind of like, definitely not a reboot, but like there definitely was some fatigue with Bond, with as you guys were describing, some of the lesser well received Pierce Brosnan later entries. And I just felt like the franchise needed this reinvigoration, because at that time, Jason Bourne was the thing, and everyone was talking about Jason Bourne being the new James Bond and better than James Bond, and they just needed to do something impressive. And I really felt like they did. I have a lot of friends who are big James Bond fans, and all the things that you were mentioning, liking. Derek, they hate like the whole shaken out stir thing. I think it's fun. I think it's cheeky. I think it when a franchise has been around as long as this one, it's totally fine to poke fun of it and to turn things on its ear. So
exactly.
Yeah, I think it really works for that reason. And even as, like I mentioned, I did enjoy how Skyfall started to kind of swing back things just slightly and in ways that felt appropriate and cool. I love this being so stripped down and just about this character, and in a way kind of allowing you to kind of get a peek under his skin and kind of figure out who he is and what drives him, which is kind of cool. So yeah, I love Casino Royale. One of my favorite action films of all time too. It's just so good.
Very nice.
And Derek, what is your number one?
My number one Daniel Craig film, big surprise, is Skyfall. This is easily my favorite Daniel Craig film. It's one of my favorite films of the 21st century. It's probably my second favorite Bond film of all time. I love this movie. I love Casino Royale. Like I said, Casino Royale is number 5. I absolutely love Casino Royale, but I love Skyfall more. It's kind of like you said, Chris, like Casino Royale's maybe a little 15 minutes too long. There's like a couple sequences that I'm like kind of, not so much, but Skyfall from like beginning to end, I love every moment of that film. I think it's also the most beautiful Bond film ever made. Roger Deakins' cinematography is just jaw-droppingly gorgeous. And it's like you said, like, Casino Royale is very stripped down, and Skyfall, like, they brought it back a little bit. They made it, some fun little things, which I was worried when Daniel Craig said, "Oh, I want to bring back some of the fun, some of the fun part." And I'm like, "Well, let's not swing all the way back to the Pierce Brosnan." But they didn't. They brought it back that perfect amount that it was still dark and gritty, but also they had those good fun moments that felt earned and they didn't feel too forced. And it's I kind of don't really have any complaints about Skyfall. I guess the one complaint maybe was just, the thing where like Javier Bardem's character, same with even like the Joker's character in The Dark Knight, how like there's so many steps ahead that they know exactly, they're like 10 steps ahead that they know exactly what every person's going to do, that it's almost like a little too, it's pushing a little bit, but that's my only, maybe. But even still, like I said, they did it in The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight's one of my favorite top 5 of all time. So, I'll forgive him for that.
So, I have a response to this, because Skyfall had the chance to be the only Daniel Craig Bond movie that I'd put on this ball. But I think they made a huge mistake, and I'm going to discuss it, but there's going to be spoilers for Skyfall. So if you do not want spoilers for Skyfall, I would say skip ahead. Maybe look at the timestamps and see. Just start skipping ahead. I don't know how long.
That's the lazy way of telling you to skip ahead.
I don't know how long we're going to talk about it for, but I would say probably 2 or 3 minutes skip ahead. So Javier Bardem character that was so smart, he was shown to be so incompetent and not scary in the way that the Joker was shown to be scary when he killed Spoiler for Dark Knight. Skip ahead 2 minutes. Spoiler for Dark Knight. When he killed Maggie Gyllenhaal in The Dark Knight, he was shown to be so scary. You're like, oh my god, he's able to achieve what he was setting out to do, and he killed one of our favorite characters, and that made emotional stakes. And it showed him to be such a overwhelming opponent.
Mm-hmm.
When Javier Bardem broke into that court and took M, he didn't. He was thwarted, got away without getting anything that he wanted to do, and then M takes a stray bullet later in the episode, or later in the movie, and dies in James Bond's arms. Why didn't they have Javier Bardem kill M, and then have James Bond have a real good reason to get revenge on him? Show Javier Bardem to be an incredibly powerful enemy, because all it showed was him being incompetent and getting thwarted over and over again in that movie. If they had done that, that would have been the all-time best James Bond movie of all time. If they're going to kill her anyway, they have her just catch a stray bullet. The movie would have been incredibly powerful, and I would have been, oh my god, they just killed M, this character that's been with us at least, since GoldenEye was when she started in the. That
was her first turn as M. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
so that's my take on Skyfall.
It's an interesting point, but for me, I get that, but I'm still fine with the way they did it.
She died anyway. They should have had him be capable and when you have a major villain. Look at Game of Thrones. How many times did a main character kill a character that we liked and we, had, we hate this person so much because of it. It really, for me, it just, he went there to do it and then failed. And then, so for me, all I could think is this guy's a buffoon. He's not a capable villain at all. He wasn't able to accomplish anything he wanted. So how smart he was.
I still saw him as capable in other aspects. I mean, he still blew up MI6 in the beginning, and a lot of other a lot of other agents around the world still got killed.
But he didn't kill anybody that we knew or care about, right? That's my point. Like, we never cared about him, so I had no emotional stakes to actually think that he took anything away from me. And I felt like the Joker took away something from me, if that makes sense.
I'll give you that. I would definitely agree the Joker was a better villain than him. But I understand your complaints. But
I can't wait for the fifth one to find out the villain that was actually in charge of everything, that did everything for all 4 of the James Bond movies prior, that was actually in charge of all of them. I can't wait for it. I'm just making fun of how every single James Bond movie, I feel like, has tied into previous ones. And the villain was actually working a part of that, like they did with Spectre. Which anyway, continue. Nobody's getting my joke. It's fine.
That was a letdown. I'll admit I didn't hate Spectre as much as everybody else, but it definitely was a letdown coming off of Skyfall for sure. There was a lot of problems with it. I just didn't hate it as much as everybody else.
I probably would have liked it a lot better if I didn't snooze my ass off during it. So I probably would have.
I think I would still rank Spectre above Quantum of Solace, and even Quantum of Solace I don't hate as much as everybody else. Like, it has its moments, but I'm also like a diehard Bond fanatic. I've been obsessed with Bond since I was a kid. I have all the books. I've read all the books. I have the Blu-ray set. I marathon those movies all the time. I'm obsessed with Bond. So for me, I guess I'm just an apologist for it because I love it so much. So maybe that's just that's just me, but. Yeah, I absolutely love Skyfall. It blew me away.
I thought I was
gorgeous.
I was a fan of Bond, but I just don't think I can say I am now a fan of Bond anymore because I'm not interested in Daniel Craig James Bond at all. And when somebody's like, "Hey, Daniel Craig's back for the 5th James Bond movie," I'm like, "Okay, fine."
Yeah, I know. You wrote on my Facebook because I was all excited about it, and you're like, "Yeah." Like Bond's one of those ones that I hope they keep making Bond movies forever.
I would rather it be rebooted. I would rather them rebooted it with a new Bond and get me reinvigorated with it again because now we're in Die Another Day territory with Daniel Craig, who doesn't even seem like he wants to do it anymore. I think it's been clear that he doesn't want to do it anymore, right?
Well, I think people have taken what he said out of context. Sure. People still talk about how he said, "Oh, I'd rather slash my wrist," but that sounds to me like I don't want to do that. No, but I guess that was taken out of context. That's tabloid sensationalism. Like, it's basically like the analogy says. Like, imagine you just ran a marathon. You just finished running a marathon. Like, hey, you want to go run another marathon right now? No, you don't. Maybe in a year from now, in a couple years from now. So
he's been trained on how to speak to press, though. and he has to know how that's going to be taken by a member of the press. But he could have said he could have said
some actors could care less how to speak to press.
I mean, but it's part of their job is to be able to speak to press, though. That's fine.
Some actors could care less.
Harrison
Ford.
Well, Harrison Ford also already beat the game, man. He's been doing it for 50 years, but he did while he was in his 30th year. He was careful with the way he talked to press. But anyway,
I'm just saying. I don't think he's totally against another Bond. I think he was he just finished. It's a hard job. It's physically very demanding, and he was just like, hey, what about another one? He's like, let's give it a minute. So I understand why he said what he said. I'm not going to hold it against him.
Wrist, though. That's anyway, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Anyway, so that's our top 5 list. Hopefully, you skipped forward enough if you didn't want to get spoilers for The Dark Knight and Skyfall. So let's get into we're getting in the chat field. I haven't seen Skyfall, but spoilers don't bother me. I'm glad, Paul. I'm really glad. Anyway,
watch Skyfall. Just watch Skyfall, Paul.
Let's get into our featured review of Logan Lucky. We're going to do a non-spoiler review of the film, and so if you haven't seen it, it's safe as long as you've seen the trailer for the most part, or if you don't care about trailer spoilers like I do. But then we're going to move to our spoiler section afterward, and we'll give a warning before this, so it's safe right now. So we give our basic reviews and our letter grades. The plot summary for it is 2 brothers attempt to pull off a heist during a NASCAR race in North Carolina. Man, do I love plot summaries like this. Just a one sentence, very quick. We've seen a couple, Chris, that were like 3 paragraphs.
Dylan hates reading, so you know.
I do. Anyway, Chris, why don't you start off with your review for Redneck's Ocean 11? I mean, I'm sorry, for Logan Lucky.
Dylan's obviously being very grumpy about this, as it's as he's playing it very subtly about the similarities of this film to the Ocean's films, and I'm gonna just say it like it is. This film is absolutely a spiritual sequel to the Ocean's films in every way, shape, and form.
Do you think the director of this could get sued by the director of the Ocean's trilogy for?
You're so funny
for copying their plot.
So it's not necessarily that the plot specifically copies it, but as far as the style of intercutting, the fact that the story itself is kind of like these little vignettes where things are kind of little clues are planted, and you, the audience, are asked to kind of like, okay, we're going to show you this moment, and you're going to have to remember that because later that little moment's going to come back and pay off in this way, and this little thing that they're working on right now will come off and play out at this way. And this very similar to all the Ocean's films. This film is structured like that, very intentionally.
And they could put like the main character's name in the title too, with it too. So
I'm going to punch you in the face.
Right.
Also, this film, there's a team element and a team gathering element, except instead of the coolest cats in town played by George Clooney and Brad Pitt with Daniel Ocean and Rusty Ryan, we have the Logan brothers played by Channing Tatum and Adam Driver, kind of going around and forming their team and spelling out their plan. And there's the laying out of the plan, and then there's the executing of the plan, which things go awry, or you think they go awry maybe, and there's like different twists and turns along the way. And yeah, absolutely, this film follows that formula from the other Ocean's films that Mr. Soderbergh made. But screw you, Dylan. I think
it even has Casey Affleck and Scott Conn brothers, the exact same duplicate characters, except they have a southern twang.
Yeah. Well, the different actors, but yes, same sort of thing there. But yeah, screw you, Dylan. This movie is fantastic fun. I laughed from start to finish. I loved all of the characters. I found them incredibly endearing, and they themselves were really the things that kept me watching it. I felt like I was just watching another Ocean's 11 sequel, except this time we have a new cast of characters who were, I think, just as compelling and fun and interesting as those conjured up in the Ocean's film. I thought that Adam Driver and Channing Tatum kind of leading the way did a fantastic job, especially Adam Driver kind of playing this kind of really just deadpan, playing things with this deadpan sincerity that for me was kind of fun throughout the entire film, in the sense that it was absolutely this great combination of things being really silly, really over the top, but also just because of the way that Soderbergh directed his actors and the way that they played scenes, you could almost believe, you know what, there are totally people out there like this. And then even as a difference to the Ocean's films, whereas in there you always had this sense, even if it wasn't specifically told, that these guys are super sharp and absolutely they could plan a heist that is this ridiculous and complicated and pull it off. Here you're kind of like, how in the world is this going to get pulled off by these two kind of hick brothers? Which is, again, for me, quite fun. And in that same vein, a lot of things were played very slowly and deliberately, and which, in certain points, really kind of like, for me, up the tension, up like, oh gosh, are they going to make it out of there in time while they're slowly, you know, packing up this thing or loading in the money?
I will agree with you that a lot of things in this movie played very slowly. I'm
going to punch you.
Jesus, Dylan.
But also, fun for me. I thought the slowness spoke again directly to who these two guys were. Not that they were slow and dumb, but their minds worked differently than those in the Ocean's films. I also thought that Soderbergh did a great job in the way that he photographed the film, and again, kind of bringing about that balance of this being this heightened, often very silly heist that these two guys are pulling off, but the way he photographed things was in this almost like kind of pseudo documentary style where he allowed scenes to get, you know, played pretty much in these long wide shots. That again, for me, lent a certain level of authenticity and believability to a plot that's otherwise a bit much and a bit over the top. So yeah, I'm really curious to hear why Dylan hates the film so much. I think that's a stupid response because the film is a lot of fun. And I love the characters. I laugh from start to finish. And no, this is not going to blow your socks off when it comes to being narratively original. And I will say, too, I felt like some of the, unfortunately, some of the moments later on in the film, I'm going to play this very cryptically, but some of the moments later on in the film where the film tried to be a bit more original in the way that they played things out started to feel like it was meandering and unfocused. And I felt like that was their attempt to do something different to the Ocean's films, or make you think that they were doing something different to the Ocean's films.
With like an hour-long third act?
Yeah, and so for me, that was the most like kind of for me anyways, overt flaw in the film. And there was like one, and I'm eager to talk about this in spoilers, because there was one last little thing to do with a cell phone that was mentioned between Adam Driver and Channing Tatum in the last scene that I didn't
understand at all. I also did not understand that at all. I was hoping for you guys to explain that to me.
Yeah, I'm the same with that, honestly. I'm gonna need to get some subtitles in there, because I feel like I was trying to understand. I was like, I think I get it, but I don't know if I fully get it.
No idea.
Yeah, so that was so funny because because my wife is sharp as a tack, and if ever, and
maybe that was on purpose to say, hey, look, you guys think those are all rednecks, but look, they're smarter than you in this situation. Maybe that was on purpose.
Exactly.
Maybe.
But yeah, usually I'm able to lean over to her after a film and be like, hey, I didn't quite get that line, or what did they say there? And she's like, oh, this is what they said. And she, just like you guys, was like, I don't know. I was going to ask you the same thing. So anyways, for all this reason, I'm going to give the film a B. Again, I had a blast watching this film. I am personally glad that Soderbergh goes back directing feature films. I don't know if he's going to stay. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and yeah, that's why I'm giving it the B.
By the way, you used the word hate. I did not say that I hated this, by the way, but
you're being a real D about it.
I'm sure I don't disagree with that. I do not disagree with that, but I didn't use the word hate. Anyway, Derek.
You're being a grump. You're being a grump about it.
I know.
Oh, Grandpa.
This movie is sitting at a 93% Rotten Tomatoes, so don't, you probably don't want to listen to my word for it. Derek, go ahead and give your non-spoiler. Well, what was your grade again? I'm sorry, Chris.
I give it a B.
What can I say that Chris didn't just say? I kind of agree with every kind of hit he made. This is, it's obviously, it follows closely kind of this format of Ocean's 11 where you get these team of guys to pull off this heist together, and you have to pay attention to some things that come back around later and the way they assemble the teams. But yeah, it's not, the Ocean's movies were all about these cool, slick, suave guys. It's just very hip, and Logan Lucky didn't do that. It was more about just kind of these, this kind of redneck, heists. These guys they're not super cool. They're not super suave, but they're lovable. They felt like real characters that are lovable. that do somehow come together and pull this, they try to pull this job off. They were all great. Daniel Craig, I think, did give one of his best performances I've seen. Like, it was a change from what we've come to see. It's just the cool, suave James Bond character, even how his character is cool. And, Layer Cake and these other movies we talked about, he's totally different. This is Daniel Craig, and like we've ever seen him before. And it was really cool to see.
Mention him. Yeah, he's great. He's great.
Yeah, that's the one thing I was like, Christy mentioned this. I'm gonna do this. Like, he was just,
I thought he was the main character, just from the poster. I didn't see the trailer before seeing the movie, so I thought he was the main character.
I'll admit, I was surprised when you said you wanted to do a ranking of Daniel Craig, because I was like, he's not the lead. I mean, he's definitely known for how different a character he is, but I was surprised you didn't want to rank.
Yeah, when I said that,
Soderbergh films or something.
When I said that, it's I thought that he was the main character. But it works anyway, because he's the main thing in the marketing. He's the biggest person in the poster. I think they're marketed very strongly as.
He steals the show in this. Everybody's great, but he's the one who steals the show. He's so different than what we were seeing. And actors like to show range. Actors don't like to be typecast. They're actors. They're all about being able to portray different types of people, and he showed it here, which is great. And same with everybody else. Adam Driver, I loved in this. I remember, everybody kind of first saw him in Girls, and I remember when they cast him in Star Wars, and whatever, people were like, he can't be a villain in Star Wars. He's the doofy hipster. But I'm like, no, like, this guy can show some range, and he has it. He's been in a lot of movies. I don't know. I mean, Patterson, he was great in. He was in Force Awakens. Silence, he was great in. Like, this guy, he's not just the hipster boyfriend that you're going to see in Girls. This guy's a great actor, and he's going to show you that.
There's no actor that I think did bad in this movie at all. I don't think any of the performances were bad, except for one. That was so bad. I can't even... But I'll talk about that probably when we get to spoilers. And you guys probably don't even know who I'm talking about. But
I think I do, because I saw your Twitter earlier, so I'm pretty sure I know. Okay. But yeah, I guess I understand that, but it didn't really bug me as much as you. But that's kind of in general. I've noticed a trend there that things don't bug me as much as they bug you.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the characters are great. Even Channing Tatum and Adam Driver, I could totally see as brothers. Not just because they kind of look like they could be brothers, but they just, the way they had that brotherly camaraderie, that it felt real. So I appreciate that. Once again, like Chris said, the way it was shot, kind of that documentary style, kind of just to make it feel real, which I appreciate. I mean, I feel like he kind of, the Ocean's movie. Well, I guess the Ocean's movies are have a little more flair, but
they're a little slicker.
They're a little slicker, but Soderbergh also, like, the way he, the way he kind of reminded me of like Contagion. Contagion kind of had that documentary feel to it that I think he did again with Logan Lucky.
Now, if we haven't been clear, when I made that joke about the director from Ocean suing the director of this, it's the same director. So I don't know if we've made that clear, that Steven Soderbergh directed this and the Ocean's trilogy.
Yeah, hopefully people realize that.
Okay.
It's the same director.
Steven Soderbergh was the person who was okay with the idea of Julia Roberts posing as Julia Roberts in Ocean's 12, right?
Yes.
We accepted this is the director that did that, right? We're all okay with that?
Same guy. Yes, indeed.
Okay, just want to make sure that's
same guy.
Julia Roberts saying, "Hey, you look like," for the first half of the movie, she kind of looks like, "Hey, you know what? She kind of looks like," and then I'm just curious, because I don't know if George Clooney also exists in the world of Oceans. He could have, why didn't he pose as George Clooney? Because he looks a lot like George Clooney too. I don't know.
I mean,
these are the questions
Bruce
we need
Willis
to be asking.
was Bruce Willis in Ocean's 12. I don't know.
Yep,
I'll give you that. I'll admit, I'm still the person who still gets enjoyment out of Ocean's 12, even though that is,
You're the person.
I will admit, the Julia Roberts thing is ridiculous. That is totally ridiculous.
One of the stupidest things in film history.
It's one of the stupidest things in film history. Having said that, Ocean's 12 is just... It's
ballsy.
It's ballsy, yeah. But it's still a fun movie for me to watch.
Hey, The Circle is ballsy.
I'll find out later today. But real quick, like Ocean's 12, yes, that is ridiculous. Julia Roberts thing is absolutely ridiculous. Okay. But I still enjoy the film. Also, it's just, tramping around Europe, and I love Europe. And so it's a pretty movie to watch, and it's fun. It's ridiculous, but it's fun. Anyways, back to Logan Lucky.
That was the best segue ever.
I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
God damn.
We're talking about Julia Roberts. We're talking about Julia Roberts and Ocean's 12, how she posed as Julia Roberts in that scene. That's what
Stop.
Anyway, you'll come back with it. You can talk about it.
Yeah, Logan Lucky. I mean, also okay, yeah. Now I remember. Like Chris said, it's not gonna blow your socks off. Like, oh my god, it's so cleverly written. I've never seen anything like that before. You've seen stuff like this before, but it's just it's a fun couple of hours. Like, this movie definitely has rewatchability for me. It's very fun. I mean, there were some hilarious jokes. I mean, there's some little current pop culture references that I was dying laughing.
They might have pushed that a little too hard, but it was funny enough.
You know, maybe, but that there's just this little joke in the prison scene that I loved because I love what they reference, obviously. So for me, it was so enjoyable. I mean, yeah, it's for letter grade, I'm gonna go B+. Just a fun couple hours, no major complaints. I would admit maybe it did have that kind of lull there in the third act. I now that you pointed out, I see that. But aside from that, it's just a fun couple hours. Nothing revolutionary. It's not like, oh my god, that was amazing. I've never seen anything like that before. It's revolutionary. It's just a fun heist movie, and it was well made.
So I guess I'll start off with saying the nicest thing I could say is there are way worse ways you could spend 2 hours. There's way worse ways you could spend 2 hours. So I'll give you guys that.
Here he goes again.
What? That's a compliment. There's way worse ways you can spend 2 hours.
It's kind of like a
backhanded compliment.
Thank you. That's what I was just about to say. It's a backhanded compliment.
I'm not saying this is the worst. This is the worst thing ever. So I'm not saying I hated this movie. There's worse ways you can spend 2 hours, and I mean that in a nice way. But the jokes, sure, there's some funny times. I laughed out loud a couple times. That being said, most of the jokes are look how funny the silly rednecks are. That's like pretty much all the jokes. And I listened to enough Jeff Foxworthy in my life. It's kind of not that funny to me anymore. But this movie's basically a Jeff Foxworthy joke stamped all over an Ocean's 11 movie. Again, like I said, the movie felt like it had literally an hour of a third act. Like, it was winding down for like 45 minutes after the climax of the movie. Which I was like, why isn't this movie ending? I don't understand. Like, please end, please. And I don't want to be thinking that in a movie ever. I also didn't find the daughter like charming at all. Was I alone?
You have no heart,
dude. I totally
disagree. I thought your chest.
I totally disagree. I thought the daughter was great. She was very charming.
All right.
I'm sorry. I have to 100% disagree with you on that. I thought the daughter was great.
I'm not saying she wasn't charming. I'm saying I didn't find her charming. So I was just curious what you guys thought on her. I don't know. I don't know where you guys thought that was charming, but maybe I'm just a bad person.
You're a terrible person.
Some actors and actresses I was shocked to see because I watched the movie before, wouldn't watch the trailer after. Shocked to see they were putting the billing on the trailer for the small amount of screen time that they had in this. They just wanted to crank it out in the trailer, showing how many stars they had. Some of them literally 2 minutes max. There's some people.
He likes his ensembles.
Dylan. That's a joke.
What?
You're complaining about like the fact that they credited Captain Waterston and Hilary Swank.
But no, I'm not saying people because we're not talking about we're not mentioning spoilers in here. But there's some people.
They're in the trailer. Dude.
Yeah, I know, but we don't know how long they are in the movie because they haven't seen the movie because we're on the spoiler section. We'll talk about it more in the trailers. But yeah, you know who I'm talking about. We don't have to mention them by name, but shocked to see why they needed to exist in the movie and what they did for the plot or anything other than advertising purposes. One of them people that you mentioned, literally no reason to be in it, didn't do anything except whatever. And there was, I have to say this, and I don't know how you guys could disagree. There was literally nothing in this movie I haven't seen at least 100 times in movies. This movie is a 2 hour long, just a clutter of cliches. And they're not bad, but it's just nothing I've never seen at all.
Let me ask you this. I don't know, maybe this is just me, but like, how many movies have you seen with rednecks that are really lovable? I guess, okay I know I'm going to get a backlash, but I'm not trying to be like, oh, rednecks are all terrible, but just like people that are just like, I don't know, they're very lovable. I guess that those kind of characters, I think you don't see portrayed.
Okay, I'll
that
say this.
way.
I'll say this. So while I said this, most of the jokes are look how funny the rednecks are. The movie still displays a love and affection for them. So I'll say that the movie at least isn't just being disrespectful, even if it is. It actually made fun of British a British character way more than it made fun of almost any of the rednecks in it. But so I will say I will agree with the lovability of them in general, right? Like I said, there's no characters that were detractors except for one, which was a huge detractor. Again, I'll talk about it in the spoilers. But like I said, but all the characters and the performances all really worked for me as far as that goes. No, but I have to have one period on the end of the sentence. Is that I know that a lot of people are going to probably walk out with this being their favorite character, being Daniel Craig. I found his character to be inconsistent. I even found his accent to be inconsistent. Like, I can't even tell you what type of personality he is after walking away from the movie. Like, sometimes he was goofy, sometimes he was intimidating. Like, I never got my thumb down on when we first met him. We were like, this is like the Vinnie Jones from Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrel. Really intimidating, crazy looking dude. And then most of the movie he was goofy and was never like he never really was an intimidating force or anything like that. Like, he is marketed as this big, powerful Hulk-like character because that's how it was presented, and that's how I thought he was. But he never really dealt with that. He kind of just did silly things, and sometimes his voice went kind of high, and I never really got even my finger on what his accent was. And maybe I don't know if Daniel Craig nailed the accent, the Southern accent. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if you guys.
Well, I don't know about the accent specifically. I'm not an accent expert, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree that his accent wasn't perfect. After all, he is English. But no, I felt like his character was consistent from the outset. Like, he is just this. I mean, he certainly is the brother of the two really kind of dumb hick brothers. And yes, he seems to be the most intelligent of the three of them for sure, but he also is related to them and possesses some of their simpleness. And, you know, like the sequence. He
also has like a doctorate in science.
Well, like,
he has a science degree.
A doctorate in science.
Doctor of science.
But yeah, I don't know. I thought his character was decently consistent.
Anyway.
I'm with Chris on that one.
Guys, I didn't hate this movie. I really had to sit on it, and the more I thought about it, the more I started getting irritated. But also, I wanted the movie to end, and that's no kind of feeling to have in a movie when you're like, please end. I can't believe this isn't ending, and that completely takes me out of the movie in general. This isn't in D territory or anything like that. I don't hate it. I give this movie a C+. I can definitely understand why anybody would really love this. It's definitely not rewatchable for me, but I didn't hate this movie, and a lot of people really get a lot of enjoyment out of it. Most people will get more enjoyment than I did too. So this is not I'm not sitting here saying this is a terrible movie in any way. I just, you know, my if I had one quip, like one final thing to put on the tombstone of this movie, would be that there's nothing I haven't seen 100 times at all.
Okay.
So, let's switch to spoilers. There's a character that I've been hinting at I really want to talk about. So let's switch over to spoilers. Where can people follow you on the internet, just in case we lose some people? Hartwell.
Definitely. You guys can find me on Twitter as well as on YouTube. Simply search Chris Hartwell or The Heartbeat on YouTube. Heart spelled HART.
What about you, Derek Miranda?
You can follow me on Twitter at Derek Miranda85 or on Instagram at Derek Miranda. And then if you want to follow our production company at all, Roberto's Media, ROWL.
Strong.
Yeah.
Describe Roberto's again.
Roberto's Media is our local little video production company that we have. We make some cool videos. We do little event recaps. We do some fun narrative stuff. We do a lot of music-based stuff. We have a web series called A Red Trolley Show. We film musicians playing on the trolley. We've had some bigger ones. We even had David Duchovny come. For those of you who don't know, that he has a music career as well. He played for us on the trolley. But check us out. Either A Red Trolley Show or Roberto's Media. We've got YouTube channels for both of them, Twitter accounts, Instagram accounts, Facebook. All them Twitters. All them Twitters.
I'll put the website on the show notes. Don't you worry.
Thank you.
I always do. For me, just launched a new podcast for the upcoming HBO show called The Deuce. You can check that out at the hilariously titled The Deuce Drop. And I know a lot of you guys have heard me mention this a million times, but when coming up with a name for a podcast for a show called The Deuce, there was nothing we could do about it making it sound like it. So everything we came up with, the Deuce Show, the Deuce Cast, the Deuce After Hours. Is
that the one with James Franco?
Watch. Yes.
Okay.
So anything we came up with, it sounded like poop, so we decided to embrace it and come up with a Deuce Drop. I'm doing this with John Booker and my friend Gina. Everybody can check this out at thedeucedrop.com. We've already have a preview episode previewing the show, and it's a pretty funny conversation. Obviously, poop is mentioned a lot of times, so if you're really immature like I am, then maybe you'll have a couple laughs in it. But it's informative about the show in general, and it should be a lot of fun. So check that out at thedeucedrop.com. For the show, you can follow us at The Watch and Talk. You can email us, thewatchtalk@gmail.com. Go to our website at thewatchandtalk.com. And our Instagram and Facebook at The Watch and Talk, or facebook.com/The Watch and Talk. Me personally, you can follow me on Twitter at Shuckster. That's SCHUCKSTER. And that's it. I'm Dylan Shuck. Oh, wait, no, that's not it.
That's not it, unless you don't want to spoil this thing.
Unless you don't want to do spoilers.
Without further ado, let's switch to spoilers. All right. So, Hilary Swank.
What's wrong with Hilary Swank?
She's just playing an over-the-top, silly character.
What is right about Hilary Swank in this movie? She was awful. Her final lines was the cringiest scene I can think of since The Circle. She was doing some over-the-top Sam Elliott impression or something. She was just talking like this every time she talked, with the cadence that no human, unless they were in a movie, would ever talk on at any time. She was so bad. I cannot believe you guys were not offended by her portrayal in this movie. Did she end the movie with dating Adam Driver?
I was confused by that beat. I think she was still on the hunt, and you were supposed to you think, oh, they might still get caught. She's still looking to find the truth here. But
yeah, that's how I looked at it. I think she was just still trying to that she was onto them.
Yeah, exactly. But that being aside, her performance obviously was not a great one. But for me, in a movie with such silly performances and people really hamming it up left, right, and center, it didn't stick out like this dramatic sore thumb to me, anyways, personally.
Yeah, when we heard her talk at the end,
when
we heard at the end, they were showing the back of her head, but we didn't see her face, and she was talking. Right, it was trying to who is this person here at the bar coming to talk to Adam Driver? First of all, why do we give a shit? Oh, why do we care? Why is this some reveal? But hearing her voice, I was immediately like, oh my god, this is just taking me. This is right after we see Catherine Waterston walk up at the bar and kiss Channing Tatum. What was that? What was she in here for other than marketing? I know she's not huge marketing, but she's pretty big. She's a leading actress now after obviously Alien Covenant and
Fantastic Beasts.
Here's the thing, though, Dylan. I think you're being upset about it because you know who she is, and they've said that she's in the film. Her role is completely serviceable in the film. She doesn't distract from the plot.
I didn't see the trailer before, though. I didn't know that they advertised with her. I was just like, what is her point? What is the point of this character at all? Even if she wasn't famous. What did...
I think she just adds a little extra flavor, and she continues to bring in... an element of growth for the Channing Tatum character and where he goes throughout the film. I don't know.
Exactly. I think
he's grown since high school.
Yeah, it's another personal connection for Channing. I mean, this is a guy who's kind of down on. I mean, obviously they go on about the Logan curse, and he's a guy who's down on his luck. He, obviously he doesn't get to spend as much time with his daughter as he would like to. He just lost his job, and you kind of they talk about how this was the guy who was. The quarterback, star quarterback, prom king, he was the popular guy in high school. And obviously, his life, he was the kind of guy that looked like he peaked in high school. And you kind of show, she talked about, blah, blah, you don't remember me. It's just to show how he's changed and, he's come down and here's another character from his past who kind of comes back and makes him, I don't know. I'm trying to think how to put this. It kind of humbles him away, but not really.
Was Melly his sister? Or was that his wife?
Yeah. No, that's
Katie Holmes was his ex-wife.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, Katie Holmes is his ex-wife, and
Melly was Riley.
Melly's their
sister.
Yeah, she's their sister.
Okay, that was probably my fault by being confused on that. And then she ends up with Daniel Craig, I guess, because we see them talking together at a bar at the end.
Yeah, because he was flirting with her earlier in the car and all that.
And we got some quirkiness with Sebastian Shaw, who's they went through this montage about him being into yoga and thinking of his body.
Hilarious.
It's kind of funny, I guess, but it just seemed like that was in a different movie, I guess. I don't know. I don't know.
It's funny because he goes on how healthy he is, and then he has to drink the energy drink, and that's what kind of he's all about his body's a temple, and then
was that energy drink or was that alcohol? I thought that was champagne.
No, I looked at it as an energy drink. I thought it was the Monster, Monster Red Bull or something. That's how I looked at it.
Okay, because I thought it was
he's not gonna go drink alcohol before he goes in.
That's what I was like. Why are they trying to get him to do that? That's weird. So
no, it's an energy drink, totally.
All right, here I'll tell you a scene I really liked is when the fight broke out early on in the bar, and it immediately just shows Adam Driver zoom in on the bottle, pops off the top, takes it outside, closes the door, calmly sitting out there. I really like that. I thought that was cool how it didn't focus on the fight; it focused on what Adam Driver immediately was doing, and you didn't know what he's doing, right? But then he immediately says, "You got a light," and then he went and throws the bottle and lights the car on fire, right?
Loved it. Hilarious.
Loved it. But why were there no consequences for doing that? And them getting to the fight the way. And later in the movie, about 10 minutes later, he drives his car into a convenience store and gets 90 days in jail.
You're in West Virginia. Things are different over there. I don't know.
Right, that was,
I guess I didn't fully think about that. Yeah.
It just is. Look, I don't want to be hey, everything has to be completely realistic. I just didn't understand. I guess I just was confused by that situation happening, but I don't know. Whatever. My favorite, I think my favorite moment of it was the Daniel Craig brothers when they had to give them moral reasons for why they're doing this, and they gave it to him. And then they were like, all right, let's talk about it. He's like, what you think? Yeah, okay. And they turned around. That was pretty funny. I really liked that.
That was great.
So I'll give you guys that. I also like Roy from The Office and Melly going back and forth while he's being a sleazeball and basically hitting on her. But her clowning about his car.
Oh
over and over
that
again.
Was great.
I thought that was pretty. And obviously the Game of Thrones joke was it was pretty funny. I was like, all right, guys, you don't need to go on this for this long, but it was so funny.
Yeah, but it was fun. It was obviously relevant. It was fun. Yeah, they might have pushed a little bit, but I'm not complaining because I love it and I'm fine with it.
I'm also excited about seeing a Macon Blair appearance at any time, and that partner
that because I don't think I knew that he was going to show up, and that was I'm like, oh, dude, it's Macon Blair. So that was a cool little. And I think I forgot that Captain Watterson was going to be in this, actually. I remember Hilary Swank was in it. Well, I remember seeing her in the trailer, but Captain Watterson, I don't remember from the marketing. So it was kind of cool to see her for me.
When Hilary Swank first showed up, I was like, oh, this is a surprise cameo at the end. Oh, that's cool. And then obviously I ended up hating her. And then when I saw the trailer, I was like, wow, I can't believe they put her in the trailer because she doesn't show up until the final hour,
until the third act,
until that final hour of the movie. Now that I think about it, never mind. And then okay, so then turns out he turned the money back in, but we didn't see any moment of him pondering turning the money back in. So we knew the entire time that there was some other plan. And then we got this big reveal, Ocean's 11 reveal at the end that what was happening that you didn't there was things happening the whole time. And why though? Why didn't they just take all the money? Because
I felt like for me this was the part of the film that fell the flattest. And I think the point that they were trying to make
something
was
about
this
insurance and them leaving them alone because
so that they wouldn't continue to pursue the brothers. They thought they got all the money back, but actually they didn't, and
Because and I think that was important because the credit card terminal shut down and they just started stuffing cash in there, right? So I felt like that was a bunch of money that was being put in there that hadn't been counted, right? But
well, like,
how much money could they have collected in that time?
They're like, just drop the money. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
You know, there's that scene in there. So it tells you, like, they have no idea how much money is being dropped in there. Like, the credit cards went down. It's just one of those situations, like, just screw it. Just put it all in the tube and we'll get to it later. And yeah, that's why I think they return it. It's like, if, you know, return the money, they're not going to pursue them as intently. It's like, oh, they got the money back, and like they said, you know, like, you know, we got the money back, blah, blah, blah.
And then Hilary Swank's going, but wait, how did you guys come up with the number that you guys came up with? Because she's such a competent and smart FBI agent. Sorry, but
she's on the job. I'll give you that. I understand that.
It's like, I mean, okay. Last question: were you guys moved when the daughter was singing "Country Roads" at the end? Was that supposed to be a moving scene?
I think it was supposed to be. Yeah. I'd say so. Okay. Especially for, like, you know, like, for me. And, like, you know, in West Virginia, like, that song, I mean, that's a famous song. That's a big John Denver song. And for, like, that's probably, like, singing it in front of this crowd of people, like, that's
like singing
probably
deep in the heart of Texas in Texas.
Exactly. Like, that's
I would
like
just
kind of
start
their
weeping,
anthem. And that's kind of like a prideful thing for them. I mean, God, I'm here in California. California has a million songs. You know, there's a million songs about California.
Which they all could be California girls.
Yeah, like West Virginia, I think that's kind of all they have, and it's probably
I get that, and that is a very famous song, and it's interesting that same song was played on, I believe, 3 movies this year, because it was also played in Alien Covenant. It was a big part of Alien Covenant, and there was another movie earlier in the year, and I can't remember what it was, but I think that's very interesting. That song was played so many times this year. But I learned that song in choir in elementary school, singing that song myself. So,
really?
I am a John Denver connoisseur because of that. But anyway.
We sing Smash Mouth in our choir. We sing All-Star. I swear to God. I was in choir. I was in show choir in junior high because it was an easy and all the girls were in it. And, like, it's funny. Like, there's songs that I used to enjoy that by the time choir was done, I hated these songs because I had to sing them over and over and over and over again. So that ruined choir ruined Smash Mouth for me as a youth.
But lastly, we again do not know what the cell phone plan. He had his cell phone shut off to be smart and to figure out his cell phone was shut off a day after he didn't pay the bill, but he figured out that something shut off within 90 days of something happening, and he's like, "Oh, that right there make damn sense right there."
I mean, the overall look was at the point it was that, like, after something got shut off, that's when he knew that the investigation was over, and then it was safe to get the money. But how that directly translated to the cell phone, I didn't quite.
I don't think it's. I feel like us three, with our brains combined, we make a smart person. So.
That's debatable.
So I think what I said was potentially what it was. It was that it was supposed to be like, hey, look at these rednecks. They're smarter than even the audience. They figured something out that you didn't even. I think that was supposed to go over our heads. Maybe. I don't know. I guess I didn't think enough about it and just think it went over my head. And now I wish I had done some research for it or whatever. But.
I know now. Well, when I rewatch it, because I will rewatch this film, maybe even in the theater. I don't know. I will definitely pay very close attention to that scene of dialogue.
Anyway, anything else we want to add to this?
I mean, here's the thing. Again, I feel like I've said my piece in the sense that I don't feel like the film is incredibly original when it comes to its narrative. However, the characters that populate the narrative itself is what really drew me in. For me, it was similar to watching a film like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang or The Nice Guys, where the performances and the uniqueness of their voice and the chemistry that they shared with one another was just really entertaining and fun to watch. And if you like comedies, if you like the Ocean's films, I really do think, I mean, gosh, if you're listening to this spoiler section, you probably have seen the film. But if you haven't, I think you would enjoy this film quite a bit if you like those other films.
Shakita in the chat agreed with me about Hilary Swank being awful, by the way, so shout out to Shakita. Big shout out for somebody agreeing with me. But what I was going to say was, okay, if I had to rank my Ocean's films, I would rank Ocean's 11, Logan Lucky, Ocean's 13, and Ocean's 12. So I think our rankings would probably be pretty similar. So for somebody who's hating so much,
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, I mean that's exactly how I'd rank it too.
It's funny as somebody who seemed to just be taking a negative aspect on it. I still think that we got the same experience from the 4 Oceans films, and I'm saying
even
that
like there's that
even
that line in the movie. They're like, oh, they're calling it the Ocean 7-Eleven.
Yes. Yeah, they even
and like
out.
That's kind of perfectly. Yeah, it was like a little winking at the camera there.
I think that's pretty funny. Ocean 7-Eleven is actually.
Yeah, it was great. I'm not.
What if they called it? And also they're working on Ocean's 8 right now. With Sandra Bullock.
Actually really excited for Ocean's 8. Like it's just all female.
Excited
like,
isn't really what I'd say, but I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see how.
I'm excited. Honestly,
I just don't like the Gary Ross, the director. So I don't know. We'll see.
He's the one who did he did Hunger Games, right?
He did the first Hunger Games.
He did the first Hunger Games. Okay.
I wasn't a huge fan of that, but that's to each his own. He did Seabiscuit, which was fun.
Yeah, I did like Seabiscuit. Well, we'll see. I mean, I'm excited though. I think it could be a fun ensemble heist film.
Anyway, let's wrap this up. Oh, we didn't say. Well, I guess we didn't discuss what we're going to review next week, but I hadn't even discussed it. I think the only option is the Bruce Lee movie. So, Chris, if you're joining next week, I think that's our only option.
Is that the only thing coming out?
Yeah, I was looking. Yeah, the next few weeks are a little bit slim picking. So
Leap is another option. So I think. Well, I guess we still have to discuss. So we're not sure what we're going to review next week. I usually say that before we switch to spoilers, but I guess I forgot this. Anyway, why don't you tell people again where they can follow you on the internet?
Definitely, you guys can find me on Twitter as well as on YouTube. Simply search Chris Hartwell or The Heartbeat on YouTube. Heart spelled H-A-R-T.
What about you, Derek Miranda?
You can follow me on Twitter, Derek Miranda85, or on Instagram, Derek Miranda. And then once again, Roberto's and a Red Trolley Show. We have separate accounts on all of them: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere.
Yeah,
all the places.
All of them Twitters.
So next week, what we have is Birth of a Dragon Leap, and I guess a Terminator 2 3D re-release, which I definitely.
Ooh, we should review Terminator. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I will go do that. I will go see that in 3D.
The week after it is Close Encounters is being re-released, and Renegades, and Goon with Sean William Scott. There's not.
I liked the first Goon. I like the first Goon. The second one I heard is probably pretty bad, but comedy sequels are generally terrible. But the first Goon was fun.
Well, the week after that we got It. So, and then the week after that we have Mother and American Assassin the same week. That sucks.
There's some cool stuff in September.
Oh, man, September's when it starts heating up, and then we got Oscar season again. It's my favorite time of year. Like I love Christmas just for Oscar season. It's not because of fucking Christmas. It's because of Oscar season.
Oh yeah, I love Oscar movies.
Yeah, me too. That's my favorite time of year. Anyway,
I just love all movies.
For me, you can follow me at Shuckster. That's SCHUCKSTER. And for the show, you follow us at The Watch and Talk. Email us at thewatchtalk@gmail.com. Go to our website, thewatchtalk.com. Go to Instagram, at The Watch and Talk, and our Facebook at facebook.com/thewatchandtalk. And that's it. I'm Dylan Shuck.
I'm Chris Hartwell.
I'm Derek Miranda.
And we'll see you next week.
Cheers.
All right, guys.
Well done.
All right, I'll be. I guess I'll be in touch with you, Chris, about next week. I think.
Sounds good. Do
you think that the Bruce Lee movie is something we want to look into?
Potentially. Next week is the first week of classes, so I might be really busy. So let's tentatively say I won't be there. I'll let you know if that changes, though.
All right.
All right,
guys. Bye.
Peace out, guys.
All right. Peace.
Bye.